I've always been the type to dismiss ghost stories as nothing more than overactive imaginations or tricks of the light. But that was before I brought something home with me, something that latched on like a shadow and refused to let go. My name is Alex. And up until last year, my life was as ordinary as they come. I'm 32, a freelance writer scraping by on articles about local history and forgotten landmarks. After my divorce, 2 years ago, I needed a fresh start, so I packed up my beat up sedan and moved to Eldridge, a sleepy town nestled in the hills of upstate New York. It's the kind of place where everyone knows your name before you've even unpacked, with crumbling Victorian houses lining streets that wind through dense forests. I rented a modest 2-story cottage on the outskirts, the kind with creaky wooden floors and windows that rattle in the wind. It was affordable, isolated, and perfect for someone like me who preferred solitude over small talk. The air always carried the faint scent of pine and damp earth, and at night, the only sounds were the distant hoot of owls or the rustle of leaves. I told myself it was peaceful, but deep down, I knew it was just lonely. I spent my days hiking the trails, researching old mill towns for my next piece, and nursing black coffee on the porch, while staring at the fog rolling in from the valley. My ex, Sarah, had taken most of our friends in the split, so I didn't have much company. Occasionally, I'd drive into town for groceries or to browse the antique shops that dotted Main Street, relics from Eldridge's heyday as a logging hub in the 1800s. That's where it started, though I didn't realize it at the time. One crisp autumn afternoon, with the leaves turning shades of burnt orange and gold, I wandered into Harlan's Curiosities, a dusty shop run by an old man named Harlan who smelled like pipe tobacco and mothballs. The place was crammed with oddities, tarnished silverware, faded photographs of stern-faced families, and shelves of forgotten trinkets. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just killing time. That's when I saw it, a small, leather-bound journal tucked away in a glass case near the back. It was unassuming, about the size of my palm, with cracked binding and pages yellowed from age. The cover had faint embossing, like a family crest or symbol, but it was too worn to make out. Harlan noticed my interest and shuffled over, his eyes gleaming behind thick glasses. "That one's from the old Whitaker estate, up on Blackwood Hill," he said in a gravelly voice. "Family died out decades ago. Tragic business. Fire took the house in 47. This survived somehow. $10 if you want it." I flipped through it idly. The handwriting inside was elegant but erratic, filled with entries about dreams, shadows, and a recurring mention of the Watcher. It seemed like perfect fodder for an article on local folklore. I paid without a second thought and slipped it into my coat pocket. As I left, Harlan called after me, "Careful with old words, son. Some don't like being read." I chuckled it off as eccentric rambling. That night, back in my cottage, I settled into my armchair by the fireplace with a glass of whiskey. The wind howled outside, whipping branches against the windows like skeletal fingers. I cracked open the journal under the warm glow of my lamp. The first entry was dated March 12th, 1942. The dreams have returned. It stands at the foot of my bed, silent, but I feel its eyes on me. I read on, page after page, detailing the writers. Elias Whitaker's descent into paranoia. He described hearing footsteps in empty rooms, smelling the acrid tang of smoke where there was no fire, and waking to find scratches on his arms that he couldn't explain. It was gripping, almost too real for fiction. As the clock ticked past midnight, I felt a chill creep into the room despite the crackling flames. I shrugged it off as the draft from the old windows and went to bed, the journal left open on the coffee table. The next morning I woke to the sound of rain pattering against the roof. My bedroom was dim, the curtains drawn, but something felt off. The air was heavier, laced with a faint, unfamiliar scent, like charred wood mixed with something sweeter, almost floral, like wilted roses. I dismissed it as my imagination, fueled by the journal's tales, but as I made coffee, I heard it. A soft creak from the floorboards upstairs, as if someone was shifting their weight. I froze, mug in hand, listening. The cottage was old, settling sounds were normal. Still, my heart quickened. I climbed the stairs, the wood groaning under my feet, and checked the spare room. Empty, just boxes of unpacked books. Shaking my head, I laughed at myself. Get a grip, Alex, I muttered. Over the next few days, the oddities piled up slowly, like grains of sand in an hourglass. At first, it was subtle. I'd misplaced things. My keys on the kitchen counter one minute, found on the mantel the next. The journal seemed to move on its own. I'd leave it in the living room, only to find it on my nightstand come morning. One evening, as I typed up notes for my article, the power flickered, the lights dimmed, and in that brief darkness I swore I saw a silhouette in the corner of my eye, a tall, indistinct shape standing by the window. When the light steadied, it was gone. My skin prickled with goosebumps, and the room felt colder. The air thick with that same smoky floral smell. I told myself it was the wind playing tricks through the cracks in the walls. Curiosity got the better of me, so I drove back to town and asked Harlan about the Whitakers. He leaned on the counter, puffing his pipe. Elias was the last one, lived alone after his wife and daughter perished in that fire. Folks said he went mad, talking about a presence that followed him from the war. Died in 52, heart gave out. Or so they say. Harlan's eyes narrowed. Why? You read that journal? I nodded, and he shook his head. Some things are better left buried. His words lingered as I left, the sky darkening with storm clouds. Back home, the tension built. Nights became restless. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, and hear whispers, faint, indistinguishable murmurs that sounded like voices echoing from a great distance. They'd start just as I drifted off, pulling me back to wakefulness. One night, I recorded the room on my phone, hoping to debunk it. Playing it back the next day, amid the static, I heard it. A soft, breathy voice saying, "Mine." My stomach twisted. Was it my own breathing? The wind? I couldn't tell. The scratches appeared soon after, not deep, but thin red lines on my forearms, like fingernails dragged lightly across skin. I'd wake with them, the sheets tangled, my heart pounding. The mirror in the bathroom fogged up even without a shower, and once, as I wiped it clear, I glimpsed a face behind mine. Not mine, but blurred, with hollow eyes. It vanished in a blink. I delved deeper into research, scouring the local library's archives. The Whitakers had a dark history. Elias returned from World War II a changed man, haunted by battles in Europe. His wife, Clara, and daughter, Lily, died in the fire while he was away on a business trip. Rumors swirled, arson perhaps, or suicide. Elias's journal entries grew frantic towards the end. It followed me from the fields of death. It wears their faces now. I felt a growing unease, as if reading his words invited something in. My own dreams turned nightmarish. I'd see a burning house, hear screams, smell the choking smoke. In one, I stood in a field of graves, and a figure approached, tall, cloaked in shadow, with eyes like embers. It reached out, and I woke gasping, the floral scent cloying in my nostrils. The isolation amplified everything. Friends from the city stopped calling. My emails went unanswered. I'd walked the forest trails to clear my head, but even there I felt watched. Twigs snapped behind me when no one was around. Leaves rustled without wind. One afternoon I found a dead bird on my porch, its neck twisted, eyes pecked out. Coincidence, I thought, but the next day, another, and another. The whispers grew louder, clearer. Stay, they'd say. Ours now. I barricaded myself in, drawing curtains against the encroaching dusk. The journal became an obsession. I pored over it, searching for clues. Elias wrote of trying to burn it once, but the flames wouldn't take. I tried the same, tossing it into the fireplace. The pages curled but didn't ignite, and the room filled with acrid smoke that made my eyes water. Then came the visions. At first, fleeting. A woman in a white dress, gliding across the hallway, her hair singed at the ends. A child's laughter echoing from the attic where I never went. The smells intensified, burnt flesh one moment, decaying flowers the next. My sleep fractured. I'd jolt awake to find the bed soaked in sweat, or worse, with handprints on the sheets, small, like a child's. Paranoia set in. Was I losing my mind? I called a therapist in town, but the line crackled with static, and a voice, not the receptionist's, whispered, "No escape." I hung up, trembling. The climax hit on a stormy November night, the wind howling like a banshee. I'd locked myself in the bedroom, the journal clutched in my hands. Thunder rattled the windows, lightning flashing shadows across the walls. The whispers swelled into cries, agonized, pleading. "Help us!" they wailed. "He did this." I flipped to the journal's final entry. I set the fire to end it, but it only bound them to me. Horror washed over me. Elias hadn't lost his family to accident. He'd killed them, sacrificing them to rid himself of the entity he brought back from the war. And now, it had passed to me through his words. The room plunged into darkness as the power cut. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, but before I could, hands gripped my shoulders, cold, insubstantial, yet vice-like. I was pulled back onto the bed, visions flooding my mind. Flames engulfing a nursery, Clara's screams, Lily's tiny form crumpling. The entity showed me everything. Elias's guilt, his madness, and how it fed on it. It wasn't just a haunting, it was a parasite, latching onto remorse, growing stronger. In that moment, I felt it burrow into me, twisting my thoughts. I thrashed, screaming, but no one heard. The grip released as dawn broke, leaving me curled on the floor, sobbing. I tried to leave Eldridge the next day, packing my car in a frenzy. But as I drove past the town limits, pain exploded in my chest, like fire in my veins. I turned back, and it eased. I've burned the journal a dozen times since. It always reappears, unscathed. The visions come nightly now, the scratches deeper. I see Clara and Lily in mirrors, their charred faces accusatory. The entity whispers promises of release if I end it. But I know better. It wants a new vessel. I'm still here in this cottage, waiting, because it followed me home, and it never leaves. And sometimes, in the quiet hours, I wonder if I'm the haunting now. I tried. I swear to God I tried. Last night I dragged the mattress into the living room, wedged a chair under the front door, and poured an entire container of table salt across every threshold, like some desperate fool. I even took a hammer to the journal, smashed it to splinters, soaked the pieces in lighter fluid, and set them alight in the kitchen sink. The flames roared blue for a second, unnatural, hungry, then died. When the smoke cleared, the book sat on the counter again, whole. The leather cover was warm to the touch, like skin after a fever. At 3:17 a.m., the temperature in the house dropped so fast my breath came out in white clouds. Every light I'd left on flickered once and went dark. I heard the attic hatch creak open by itself, slow, deliberate, then the soft pad of bare feet on the stairs. One set heavy, one set light, like a man carrying a child. I didn't run. There's nowhere to run anymore. They came down together. I saw them in the glow of the dying embers in the fireplace. Clara first, her nightgown still smoldering at the hem, skin blistered and split, eyes melted to black pits that somehow still wept. Behind her, Lily clung to her leg, half her face gone, the other half frozen in the same trusting smile she must have worn the night her father locked the doors and struck the match. They stopped at the edge of the salt line. For a moment, nothing moved. Then Lily lifted her ruined little hand and pointed straight at me. "Daddy's tired," she said, voice rasping like wind through burnt leaves. "It's your turn now." The salt began to blacken and smoke, as though something acidic dripped from the air itself. The line broke. I felt it slide into me then, not cold, not hot, just inevitable. A pressure behind my eyes, a weight settling in my chest, like wet ash filling my lungs. My hands, my own hands, rose without my consent and pressed against my throat. I watched my fingers tighten. I felt my windpipe start to give. I'm writing this with a broken pencil on the back of an old electric bill because my phone died hours ago and the power never came back. My reflection in the black screen keeps blinking out of sync. If anyone ever finds this cottage, if anyone ever reads these pages, burn the whole place to the ground. Don't try to save anything. Don't open the journal. Don't look in the mirrors. Because I finally understand what Elias meant in his last entry. The fire didn't kill them. It just made room. And now there's room in me. I can feel them curling up inside my ribs, warm and safe at last. They're humming a lullaby, and I'm so very tired. Good night.